Sweet. I'll send you a text.
Okay, so I think we have both of the poets here. Amazing. And you're going to lend me a copy of the book, perhaps, to display it? Thank you. So I've neither prepared an elaborate introduction or any real introduction at all, nor have I done a whole lot about laying in the books. So the deal on Andrew's book is you can look, but you can't touch. We're going to put it under a glass dome, actually. And we're going to try to tell people it's a piece of pastry they can buy in the morning or something. Might work, but actually this is destined for Owen. So I will be happy to sell you a copy and give you a complimentary postcard from our lovely postcard rack back there, and get Andrew to inscribe the postcard, and then we will marry that up with the book when it arrives. Absolutely a flawless plan, and you're going to love it. And we'll tip it in, you know, we'll get special, you know, bookmakers kind of glue. We'll do something. Anyway, so yes, we have a precious few copies of Owen's books. So they're quite serious writers. They're going to give you good reading. Mostly poetry with some fiction. So, and Andrew's going to kick it off. So you can set a little context for yourself. You know, tell them that I pronounced Andrew correctly. Okay. All right. We really appreciate it coming out. We do have to make sure that the volume's okay and that the level on the recording is good. Okay. You can relive this when you get home with your copy of the book, because it will already be up on YouTube. It's streamed live to the world right as we speak. It's already started.
Oh, okay.
So you don't want to use that microphone because that's how the world hears it.
All right.
But we'll also put a little in the room. So let's see what kind of level we get. Perch on that seat, and if that's sort of a normal distance from you, it doesn't have to be close. So maybe I'll position it a little bit, just because it makes me look like I'm doing a job here instead of hanging. I think that's probably going to be fine. Comfortable. Oh, this is kind of something I meant to adjust down here. Just in case you start tapping your feet, you don't want that to pick up that.
Okay.
I think that's probably
Hello?
fine. Yeah, I have to go back and look at
Oh,
the level.
okay.
And
Yeah, I
that,
can
but
hear
it's
it.
coming through here pretty
Yeah.
good, but
Little echo.
all bets are off when I start messing with the level. So just start introducing yourself a little bit.
Hi.
Hey, come on.
Okay, I'm done.
You're fine. Take it away.
Okay. Let me get a glass of water happening first, just in case I need it. Well, thank you to Owen for being interested and to read together tonight, and to Eric for having me, and to my few friends that I've seen here tonight and some new ones I met. So thanks for coming. I thought I would just read a handful of pieces. That book, the title is Artifice and the Calm Damages. The first part of it, the first section of it, was originally published in this nice, like letterpress chapbook from Chax Press in Tucson. So I'm just going to read a handful from that, and I unfortunately didn't have any extra copies of that. And then I'm going to read from a sequence of sonnets that I've been playing with, started a couple years ago. So I'll kind of mix that up. So this is the title piece, and it was funny. I was kind of looking at this on the plane when I was flying out, not having read this for a while. So this came out in 2017, and the book was published in 21. And I realized that kind of everything and nothing has changed in the interim. And I think you'll probably know what that means. Artifice and the calm damages. It will arrive beneath the skin, leave no footprint. It's backward compatible. Neonics are threatening our bees. The contingent sweat carving up lettuce from a vicious pile of soldiers promises salvation in a layer of non- and for-profit hierarchies that govern and shape an indentured sobriety to reverse a technicolor yawn under which we go to war. Why is the baby on the bench? I came with him and then I was kicked out. Cure in the sense of stopping the pathology among the genres of a happy ending? The ink that neglects the class war protects the particular identity groping toward the already vanished forgetfulness. Look what you did to me, babe, says the context of Go and Be Evil. An unfinished garden of involuntary. Either you have someone's attention, regardless of benediction, or your trip advisor over tea and cakes composes an upper-class protocol to protect you from other people. But I guess you, free and secure citizens, pruned in the educated restructure of feeling and thought washed clean, know that already. Brass tongues vomit all over me. It's demoralizing. Do I complain? I don't know what to say. Molasses? Prayer-like subterranean dispatch? Separation personality lengthened impeachable pamphlets quid pro quo? This bill just gets worse and worse. Whose jobs were offshored or eliminated by import competition? What the fuck did you think they were going to assemble? I think we need one now where the baby wears holsters. This one is called The Punitive Tiring of Light, dedicated to William Fuller. The paradox of capitalist labor is a fine thing, but it is not the place of sanctity. One dwells in the recognition of a demi-quintessence, hours of toil that vary with position or time, that eventually leaves one's pocket, goes to the departed, slowed to an adagio, paralyzed by its haste. Everything else rots in hell in the unenviable position of having to study, work, and points of departure, perhaps some form of manual control, and neither very rational. Dialogue with one's material takes the optometrist job that smells of laundry soap and mildew along the hallway where the spiders hang in wait. I mean that literally and metaphorically. Adults who cry when they die did not have mothers who would comfort them. What is constant, if it exists, is not really constant. We're not people. We're lithographs. We're only real between acts. The best of our domestic imprecations allow one to expire resplendent with desire, part of the unstoppable drift in time, and thus operative, imaginative trees becoming stars, creating space. Climbing down from my tree, the sole of my right foot keeps the only knowledge it retains on the top of my sandals. Striving in both construction and surface may be something ordained to serve us. A cactus garden, birds hunting insects in the needles, circummed by a regiment of idleness, an abyss of saffron fertilizer, Exxon tanks, soap plants spilling into key streams, neuromolecular death turning down the lender of last resort. Genius conjectures on lonely fantasies accidentally imprisoned in retirement to avoid an apology. Seeing that intimacy is effortless, it has no need to come inside one's cabin, waving its feet in safety deposit envelopes of the divine, which, heartbroken, calls from a huge bedroom and cries. The impeded stream is the one that sings. Here's another baby poem, kind of. One day you wake up and it's okay. Don't leave me hanging or derailed. This ain't reality TV. With every well-considered detail, the baby we drop abroad will explode at home in unemployment and inflation. There really is no such thing as a baby. Hey, baby, where are you going with that gun in your hand? Going down to shoot my old lady. Caught her messing around with another baby. The baby is so witty and biting. Aesthetics and the political are open game. The banal and the actual are getting what they deserve, based on screenshots past the mediation point. Babies think they're at war when they're not really at war. Babies, after all, generally speaking, are among the most privileged and well-nourished people on earth. There exists a sort of non-conceptual monogram that provides the baby with intuitive configurations and opens up in front of it a field of orientation and expectation, tree in bloom. Walt Whitman never knew what hit him. The great living neutrality buttressing the deep structure, splat, 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 boom, 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 kapow, kapow, kapow. I wish I had inherited, says Baby, the scheduled simplicity that poetry's almost blissful absorption in flight to escape the melting, the more turbulent bloodshed, the malnutrition among children between the ages of 6 months and 5 years old, the hopelessly introverted covered in waste. Once upon a time when we spoke on what we felt was said, to today's what we think may have been meant. The blue-colored wind, the cooking potato skins are inattention meant to continue in a form of ornamental and intermediate personal ambition inelegantly. One day you wake up. This one is called Last Night, dedicated to my friend Julie Patton. Last night, 21-year-old Dylan Roof entered Emmanuel AME Church in Charleston, South Carolina, and asked to sit with Pastor Clementa Pickney, pulled up the horse a yard shy, led it through the scalp. No time to mount crossbolts. That's what I heard. Hole didn't stop to shoot a tree for lumber. Busted their falls bad. Hushed with a handcart, burnt black kindergarten, euthanasia, 5-star Taipei. Shrubs singing what a window was. Kickboxed. Your post-grad grads are the worst. Professors wipe their asses, babysitting genomed ears, a weaker growth in China. These guys have a lot of secular headwinds, mired in downtrend head and shoulders, sugar rush acquisitions, latest and greatest ultimate killing machine. Before this bond hearing, conformism can also destroy it, raised and trained and treated consumers. Prepare in eating or drinking, procrastination to not doing, the allergies ego, its spiky rotted bonfire door-banging alto bassoon, slaves, peasants, flagstones, ignorance, wealthy, Buddha. We, as a nation, composers of the age, contradictions, architects, perpetuated hate, an aquatent of marble towers, a crime the day humanity shall have fulfilled its purpose. The demagogue excused of that kingdom, the honeymooned malady, rebuffed, burgled, everyone hurt, double-bladed, stroked, encircled on the lookout, bound for Switzerland, 5 bottles of wine to wear it. My ears flattered, protested, sentimental injustice. Do something clumsy, indiscreet. This is not who we are. This is who we are. The opening ritual becomes everything we do and perceive. Say goodbye. Walk out on the stage. Treat each solitary moral in anguish. The comedian's invocation, medium's hip in concentration. Begin to move. Return the Chinese boxes. Check the total system of requisite variety. On earth, small arms never arrive at truth. Well, I'll just go on to the next one. War of life. We fought for months to reform this broken system. But it's unsettling all the same to learn that my employer is maybe spying on my private expressive activities and expressive conduct. Have I completely misread what I think I've experienced? The crawling severed hand prevents their escape. That's both weird and, offensive language, up. It's impossible to be a poet. I'll scan my passport and hope that suffices. Has violence taken the place of measurement? Once you get in, you can knock other people out? Don't bite the bullet, the idea behind the bullet, and become a contemptible snake. You don't need a special day. You're a liar. I always do my own editing, locked in a room with no one to hear my words. They return from who knows where. They come back to me. They underlie emotions that undergird my belief in the heteronym being profoundly antithetical to the history and mission of literary institutions which proportion reservations less heuristic than confrontational. The blood is equal to the money made. This is why facts are insufficient remedy for dislodging bullets from those who have weakly held positions. To get to the Climate Change Museum, art dealers and their associates had to disappear. If there's life on other planets, then the Earth is the universe's insane asylum. I felt something was wrong the entire time, but I had possibly misread the situation in its entirety. Someday, there will be something that you just won't be able to do again, like straighten up. You'll say, I'm never going to get over it. That was War of Life. Skipping ahead. Sip of water. This piece is called A Great Blue Wet World of Thought. I'll bet that bush would be so soft and thick you could use it as the most natural thing in the world. Everything is perfect. How it has been handed down person to person across generations. Bloomberg is an ass. Answer my question fast. Be silent, mechanical bee. It's not always going to be this way. You left me without warning. The wind is whistling through the screens. Ambulance and fire sirens carried on currents of chilled air. How do any business? In a great blue wet world. What an ass I've been. Misheard lyric. Somebody calls you. You answer quite slowly. That girl with colitis goes by. And the most natural thing, the world and the rage that he's burning up with spills over me. Its mooring is partial or provisional, an infinite emptiness that people cannot see. Certainly no hope of gain motivates it. It is a revolt against the tedium of the merely economic attitude toward the great blue wet world. We have half a mind to kill. Everything seems to go wrong. It isn't a question of practice. It's the removal of our surplus. Someone said, it's impossible, that you can't fit the whole world, that we can't place an initial experimental order that has no known experience of making the broken heart heal. Aeneas fights with Diomedes and Achilles in the Iliad and doesn't die. He may not be major, but he's a bit more than peripheral. Men seem to think it is a question of aesthetics. Nothing of the sort. Start at Prince Edward Island or start here. Coal ash contains mercury, arsenic, lead, and other toxic chemicals. It piles up in massive quantities. Indiana makes same-sex marriage a felony punishable by prison. They are my words. Nobody asked me to write them. You are incinerating continuity and opportunity. You could step into a minefield without even knowing it. You could identify with the poor. And the last poem I'll read from this is called Country of Lost Borders. The writing in this is largely improvisational. And this was written on September 11th, 10 years ago, 2015, dedicated to my friend Norman Fisher. Every man casts a shadow. Everyday helicopter pilots circumnavigate state-of-the-art surveillance arrangements, boasting to the children of prospective residents not their bodies only, but their imperfectly mingled spirits. A nocturnal telephone call is their grief. They believe that they know this country of lost borders well, though a great number have lost their lives in the process of proving where it is not safe to go. Giant fingers can lift some of the weight of congenital prejudice. There are many ways we catch glances in each other's eyes and see ourselves as inviolate, or at best, known only to some far-straying Indian, sheep herder, or pocket hunter, whose account cannot be reached through words or deliberation. To completely liberate the patterns of thought is a task that requires an opening, like flowers in a speeded-up film to the Garden of Eden. It is now possible to pass through much of the district by guideposts and well-known waterholes, but the best part of it remains locked, inviolate. But what happens when the garden fails us? People begin to look behind the bushes. The syrup of sentimental moods adhere to their judgments. Poets write books in which the popularity of their poetry stands registered, ruffles often folded for no other reason than to demonstrate a fold. Piety is perhaps over. In the beginning was the Word. Let one turn it which way one will. It falls opposite to the sun, short at noon, long at eve. Its song penetrates through everything, but nothing can withstand its silence. Teachers and advisors tumble down, always scared of falling, taking their cues from books. And if you guys would indulge me, the last thing in here is acknowledgments, right? I mean, a lot of books have the acknowledgments at the end where you thank everybody who's important. And I've never had a chance to really read this to an audience, so I would like to do that. Acknowledgments. But these are my own reflections, and I am by no means sure that I am right in attributing them to the gross impropriety of a man's betting his brains like banknotes. Gliding down a staircase with a champagne glass in my hand, I no longer argue with talent. Social scientists run a special kind of risk because their work does seem, superficially, to share certain goals with the ideological generalizers. Researchers have to be extra careful to ensure that the biases and preconceptions of the political space don't bleed into their work. And they have to be sober and realistic about the conclusions they draw from their research. Additionally, it might not hurt to make sure that your methods are something other than totally shitty. The choice to constellate certain kinds of rituals, stories, propositions, and epistemological modes into a single package called religion is a fairly recent European and Protestant phenomenon. Similarly, the idea that religiousness is separable from the rest of culture in such a way that you can see it quantifiably motivating certain behaviors would seem alien and weird to a lot of people for whom faith is not so easily distinguished from other strands of culture. The world is being ruled by doubles under my command. Alan Davies is the only language poet who has ever had sex. I like the formal work of these pieces, the way they mimic our overloaded information age in order to subvert the depoliticization intrinsic in those news on the go forms. The majority of the other readers' work I might characterize as young. One wrote on an imaginary girlfriend in an Adam Sandler mode. A young woman poet exhibited her flirty sexuality, and a knucklehead had poems about hanging out with the money set in the Hamptons. Idiotically horrible in every way. As Tanya pointed out, he thought he was Wordsworth or something, escaping the stink of the city. If you find the poems dark, let me know. I'm considering sending them to The Nation from Derek Walcott. I think fragments of glass had pierced his head, she recounts. His face was a mess because of the blood flowing from his head. But he looked at my face and smiled. His smile has remained glued in my memory. Aliens and psychonauts vis-a-vis DMT. There are so many surprises in the poem, including the entrance of Paco, whose entrance reminds me of the surprise entrance of Ramon Hernandez in The Idea of Order at Key West. But should taxpayers have to pay for that discrimination? Thomas Jefferson would turn in his grave. I've got a house by the roadside made out of rattlesnake skin. You know it's made from a human skull. Who do you love? It's just blowing my mind that despite an element of anti-technology and hippiedom, there were enough that were driven to put computers in the hands of the people and snatch the internet from ARPA and make it possible for so many to see and hear such performances that surely would have been seen by only a select few, especially if some bean counter decided it had no commercial value. Long live peace, love, truth, and creativity. 100% with you. This goes beyond passion. It is a cosmic orgasm. I'd forgotten what it felt like being in the woods, so to speak. The first night, I slept like a baby and enjoyed the most lucid and lengthy narrative-like dreams. It may have been that my body relaxed from the tensions of travel between New Jersey and New York City and breathed the air of the Berkshires deep into my lungs. So it may take a while, but I'm preparing to prioritize reading this stuff. It is an almost hopeless task, for there's rarely a day when at some time the dust clouds do not roll over and everything is covered again with a silt-like deposit which may vary in depth from a film to actual ripples on the kitchen floor. I keep oiled cloths on the windowsills and between the upper and lower sashes. They help just a little to retard or collect the dust. Thanks. Thank you. I have no idea how much time I've taken. So barely enough. Wow. Okay. So now I'm going to, as I mentioned before, I'm going to switch to some more recent work that I'm still, editing and maybe writing. So I've been playing with the sonnet form for the last couple of years. And I found this one in an email sent back to me from Norman Fisher with a nice comment. I couldn't find it myself otherwise. It's called My Hostage Enterprise. Okay. My Hostage Enterprise. I'm trying to get readers of poetry detained, but not enough. Whenever I am intrigued by experts in their miserable lives, something moves in my heart. My wrongful detention was necessary in the social division, in the borrowed then broken urn. Attorney-client privilege conceived by mere men is gas in the mind. Truth? Best of luck. Split-screen images have flown off before the setting of fire in Waco. a nice conversation with purely nothing. The court of public opinion is blood in the ears, the limit of a long cadence, lies for the mob boss. The robots shine in the sun. Smoke wavers in the atmosphere, the face of an earth that's been kissed goodbye. A continuous shelling on the receiving end. This one has a different tone. Consider breakfast. I write poetry not to avoid the responsibilities of being a husband and a father, a colleague and friend, a teacher and a student, a sibling and a cousin, a son and a nephew, but in an attempt to comprehend them. It's all piling up in the ethos of now. But that's not everything. There is the past one expects today. What one learns about all of one's secrets lives as an echo, no more singular or settled into ourselves, in intimate dialogue and instruction to the places on earth one loves. Back into the future, but not getting ahead of oneself, confronted by breakfast, no one goes there. It is impossible to walk. No one will ever go there. I've seen that everyone feels that way. A world inadequately quiet, an infant body of nostalgia already dead. And then I use my eyes to forget, to study or see with the stars. Branches, leaves, roots. And this one is titled The Big Call and is dedicated to Tyrone Williams, who some of you knew, who was a dear friend. Over at my house, we're dancing on the moon. Can't sing a damn. Everything sounds like steam. We're on the Milky Way. That's the only God we know. With you in my arms, call forth a miracle. It's a miracle. Whatever there is to find in there, it's my fault. The secret that he's keeping from the rest of the world, it's personal. Adonai Eloheinu. I live on pineapple. My life might still be anything at all. It feels like it will never be totally done. To help life go right, cements miles road our sweet breath missed. Walk toward the table, grain to look like pine. Today is given a low rating. A telephone of sand and pebbles. In its vortex, consciousness takes experience through the discount window. Nothing has to wait. An embedded universe looks at you, says, look at me. Introductions walk over the ice in crushed grasses. I'll skip this one. Okay, so that series of sonnets kind of, I'm going to read some pieces now that kind of from the first part of that, so, a couple of years ago. So this one's titled Hey, H-E-Y. Hey. Each line only takes on meaning as a variation from the other. The concept of the line is not a bet, but a yardstick to see where the compared element exceeds the limits of the measuring. In healthy, affinitive proportion, in some nook of the world, at some time or other, I would give my left arm or left leg. The old sufficiency has been lost. To see more than one is seems lamentable and disastrous. A flood bearing garbage, filth, which spreads over the earth. Death, misery, hate and injury, malice and ugliness out to dazzle and glitter to be new. Their deviation from other variations is a fascinating thing. As variants of the variant, the origin is not the original. There is no original. Hey. Your safety is a hellhole. Look, I'm heartbroken. It is not happening the way one thinks it is. Fire the bus tour. The unconscious part of our mind is conscious of the face of a pig, 5 of them, throwing a handful of coarse salt into the salinity of the inland sea. The breathable cocoon of the ancestor sponge is a gift. It continues to get worse. Someone has died. Contrition in traditional Western morality. The immemorial, all burnt. Its gender, its class, feeding the white wolf at the expense of the black wolf. Reading a few pages in an impeccable formal French garden. The sorrow of all men and women. Devotions upon emergent occasions. Having a good time. Going under. 74% in. It's not great, but it's certainly not bad. The most accurate thing one can say is not an abstract quantity possessed in oneself. How do our lives absorb the clairvoyance dream? A sexual question lost in a transfer of intelligence? The Zen sage resembles her cat. That's the message or point. The futurality of neurons and of poetry is a speculative biology, irrefutable, liberating, and ethically disturbing. 47% of the vote. We happily whistle at beech trees, a nail-biter and an abundance of humanity and poetry, compelled to sing, only to live everywhere. Why are we talking? 26% in person. I think that might have been written during the last election. Not the recent one, but the one before that. Oh, this one is somewhat more recent. The rot of anti-Semitism. None but men of consequence lubricate the virtual hate into a shared vibration. The sound of the pathway is dry, flat, a poor soil. There's nothing to explain. There can be no arrangements. In some silent affair, we're carried by ritual that ends when you decide. The clever man would put the poison in his own goblet, if you'll allow me. The extent of all the wishes, grinding with it. The poem has come to an end. They carry the rod of anti-Semitism in a dirty little world. Then what? Perception, happy with smoke. May I live 1,000 years, millions of years refusing a real ironist. Every inhabitant arrested. It will dilute every last bit of matter and energy into a cold equilibrium. That story, and particularly its final act, might be wrong. Some talk of revelation. I was besieged with invitations to sit on panels, give talks, and judge poetry contests. I am asked to comment on political issues that I know nothing about. Poets sometimes tell themselves this myth. I'll go lead this thing, and then I'll come back and do my writing and research. The poetry passes them by. Intuitions about how one might find it in the actual universe have not proved out. The dimmer they are, the farther away. I'll try it. Soak. Poetry is always becoming itself. Reality has become what it is. Its various elements sit alongside each other, prop up the world the reader is invited to believe in. Much of the belief depends on the production of ideas that become a substitute for perception, i.e., poetry. It is the smoke spreading on the rim. It is a hallucinatory, though realist, vision, a journey through a lifelong dark night. It is the clear margin in the eye and ear, a wind-blown installment, happy with smoke, lungs unraveling to beg an ocean to follow. Before light, before darkness, shadows come swiftly to places beyond belief. Beamed into the biosphere, they're yours. The warm grass moves sideways, 13%. At the meridian, the moon, a black spiral. You doing okay? Should I keep going, or I don't want to eat up too much time. Anything? Any ideas? A little more? Okay. There might not be too much more anyway. The dreaded shenanigans. As always, the poem is attracted to the theme of how people fail as society surges ever forward. It is they, it suggests, who offer a recognizably human countenance in a world ravaged by the ambitions and fantasies of its true believers. Trump just ambushed Liz Cheney. Like again. So we're sending her a poem where everyone has a permanent roof over their heads, food in their fridge, access to clean drinking water, and access to free, quality health care. A poem where people get paid a living wage. You know, the Museum of the Zero, the daybreak in the daydream of darkness, waking oneself from selected antiphonies, the Kabbalah of capitalism, the centripetal backwash, the cauliflower tiramisu, which is horrible if you've ever had it. Don't recommend that. Sabbatical. On the emergent incompleteness of poetic descendants, among whom one includes oneself, is occasion the latest topicality. New occasions are constantly added to the old ones. The theological context of the poem's demeanor borders on artlessness. Sitting in the dark, pruning it, may sometimes bear fruit. There is no reason to stop. The childhood photograph impresses the piles of bricks, apples, and pears, new buildings that are, at midday, little houses. Some children are very well behaved. Through the encroaching dark, differences shrink. Who knows what vicarious impulses their sympathy holds? No easy truths are there. Let me just see real quick what I have here. I'm going to just jump ahead a little bit. This one's called Fuck Yeah. We are afraid of truth. It begins with a quotation. We are afraid of truth, afraid of fortune, afraid of death, and afraid of each other. Ralph Waldo Emerson. A soft reliance on the insolvent corporations of itinerant journeymen in reactionary times views suicide as great and poetic. The public mentality, an immense cortege of undertakers, political undertakers, amorous undertakers, bourgeois undertakers, all observe some kind of funeral. The leveling ceremonies of diffusion inhabit the public's wish for delay. The very few exceptions to this precept prove the rule. The next poem your poet writes will be titled Insolvent. The pile of currency under his bed is dark and holy. Who should soever, blah, blah. Shelters make no protest being hammered by restraint. This level sequence of history comes running. America? Fuck yeah. Okay. There is a crack in everything. I walk around in big ideas. Americans hate everything but individualism, merchants of dubious truth. God be with you. God, it's cold. Sometimes I light a candle and put my finger in the flame. On the other hand, many people are roasted. Do you want it? Yes, I want it. Very few people are free. The poem is carried through the depths in the mouths of wise fish who listen to the voice of God with their gills. Open your mouth, then swallow the poem. I'll just read two more, so thank you. Kurt Vonnegut, fellow Hoosier. We are what we pretend to be, so we must be careful about what we pretend to be. The most delicate meat, an eyeball on a teaspoon, a human eyeball. Squeeze lemon juice on it. They're quite sweet. Don't forget the vertebrae. I find writing poetry to be extraordinarily pleasant. Everything at once, everything in time. The crematorium's chimney, the milky nirvana, a segment of sun and bird. A leather SS slicker with white lapels. My own blood pours into your silver carburetor. Writers take turns pissing in my face. The soldiers held me down. Eat this, or we'll feed you worms. Every totalitarian text. I'm just going to skip and skip. Damn, I got more than I thought. They're all good, I think. I lied. Two more. Getaway. A good line doesn't care who has it or how often. The combustibility of our brief introduction to life on Earth with no practical gifts for earning a living. I despise the upper classes because they are phony. Ministerial pronouncement visibly designed to reassure or to satisfy the craving for law and order. Defy or break the law. Do nothing. Weaknesses chill the blood of one's enemies. Have none. Or, until I think of a new type, have two. It's a good line. Its slow rub thrives on disorder. Even the sun loses its grip. In this last one, very brief, I think it will, everyone probably has had this experience. I think you'll see. It's titled An Atmosphere of Effort. Tim Waltz emailed me. Hakeem Jeffries emailed me. Chuck Schumer emailed me. Hillary Clinton emailed me. Nancy Pelosi emailed me. Catherine Clark emailed me. Jim Clyburn emailed me. Steny Hoyer emailed me. Eric Swalwell emailed me. Jared Huffman emailed me. Gretchen Whitmer emailed me. Wes Moore emailed me. James Carvell emailed me. Carole King emailed me. Thank you. Lots of emails. Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Andrew. It's about 10 days, costs $19. I'll sell it to you for $17.50. You'll get a discount on your next tire purchase at the place down on opposite Audium. We can cut a deal. All right?
Audio?
Opposite Audium, there's a tire
Oh.
place.
Yeah, sorry.
I'll get them to give you
It's a terrible.
if you have a car. So that's Artifice and the calm damages. So yeah, see me. We get a postcard, we get it inscribed, we get the book, we can get it, save money, everything is good. Poetry will take care of everything. Thank you, Andrew, that's great.
Thank you. Thanks.
Now we have another victim. All right, Owen,
Actually,
are you up to it? You can stand it? Do we need like a glass of water or anything, anybody?
We're okay, but I will take that discount on tires.
Excellent. Wait till they hear. Okay, so yeah, Owen's gonna do some poetry and some fiction.
Poetry and fiction. I'm going to start with fiction. Do you know how disconcerting it is to have Samuel Beckett looking over? I feel like saying, it's just a pot boiler. Please. I mean, he's scary. He's always been scary, but over your shoulder. I'm going to read from this is something I never thought I would see, an omnibus edition of my entire crime fiction. It was incredibly generous of PM Press to do it. This is like 25 years of kind of my hobby, because I worked in a bookstore and I wrote poetry, and every so often a mystery novel would come up, and this is all of them. So it's kind of hard to read from. I'm going to do, I guess, little pieces of each. And Clay Blackburn is the detective. It's kind of auto fiction until somebody gets killed. He lives in a building where I lived. He drives a car that I had. He's bisexual. He writes poetry and has trouble getting it published. And it's called The Giveaway. This is the opening of the second novel, which I think gives a little bit of a sense of the character. My 87 Tercel is in great shape, only 100,000 miles, and almost knew almost everything. But it does have trouble with the Bay Area hills. Coming out of the tunnel on 24, leaving Berkeley, heading toward the suburbs, I was losing speed and the SUVs were losing patience. I shifted it down into second and wagged my middle finger. My best friend Marvin says that driving slow in a small car is a revolutionary act. Maybe he's right. A woman in a Hummer, no lie, who probably weighs in at about 97 pounds, half of it hair, gave me a look that could kill and waved her phone at me. When you think of spoiled little brats in military vehicles careening through the burbs, you know how rotten the 21st century is going to be. Let's see, and moving on to the next vignette. But where is that vignette? At home, I carefully put tiny little pieces of paper in where I was going to read, and they've disappeared. I got home late, but reasonably late. The cat was angry, so I put down some food. I wanted to hear some music, then didn't, then did. What to play? Alice Coltrane ended my quandary, the spiritual stuff. I don't really get it, but that doesn't mute my appreciation. Mostly the hots had worn off. There's a restaurant in Berkeley that doesn't really serve psychedelic hot sauce, but in this novel it does, and Clay goes there often. The hots had worn off. I felt a little down, but in a romantic poet way. It came as a gentle buzz, not harsh like a speed crash. When I closed my eyes, I could see the blue, lighting up the insides of my lids. I had a huge Franz Klein poster that had a bit of blue in it, sort of cobalt. Was that the blue? I crossed the studio apartment and got up close, looked at the Klein, then blinked and blinked again. Not quite the blue. I thought about writing, but I couldn't really write about blue because that is played out. I mean, do I reference the blues? Decided that beyond casual conversation, I wouldn't, at least at first, reveal the secrets of my eyelids. I was curious, though. Was everybody seeing blue, a color that couldn't be found in nature? Or could it? Curiosity would drive me to conversation, but I wouldn't include it in a poem. At least for now, the blue and its blueness would only be hinted at and mostly remain internal. You know, I had a really good part with a really good piece of paper in it, and it'll come. But until then, I'm going to read toward the end. Oh, here it is. There is a semblance of a plot too. We were talking about John D. MacDonald, who's a terrible writer, but I steal all my plots from him because they're so easy to get, and I can turn them upside down a bit, and nobody would notice. Nobody notices because nobody reads that guy anymore, and it's a really good way to steal, because I don't know how to do plot. Mostly I write toward a poetic paragraph that I've always wanted to write, and he has to murder somebody. This is from Mayakovsky's Bugatti, which is the most recent novel. I didn't have to bribe cops, talk to record clerks, go on long drugged-out walks in the country, lose sleep, take boring people out for expensive dinners, buy records I didn't need. Just needed to acknowledge that love is blind, that some crooks are charming, sexy, and can even be great fucks, wear great clothes, know how to discuss art and literature, drive cool cars, show up with an amazing bottle of wine, kiss you as they enter your place, calling you dear. This is noir. I've read the book, seen the films. He was Jane Greer, he was Mitchum, he was Robert Walker, he was Bruno. Someone comes along with a very bad character. He seems attractive. Is he really? Yes, very. He's as attractive as his character is bad. That's what you think of in the city. I was alone in the Chandler apartments, sitting on the bed, my brain a twirly little thing. I thought about a dose of hots, but then I didn't. I wasn't sure where it might take me. I got up, went to the kitchen, found the Glenfiddich, had a short shot. So this is noir. So much more imaginable on a screen or on a page. Poured another short one, just a steadier. Getting drunk would be too depressing. At some point, I would need to walk or maybe drive. Back on the bed, looking up at the ceiling. Dino Centro, I think of Dino Centro. Oh, Dino Centro, please don't poke my eyes out. Please don't shoot me. I could take a stabbing or poison if it could somehow be passed in a kiss, but then it would have to be murder-suicide, and Dino never dies. Is it fatal when it's a guy? He moves through, especially the first novel and the last novel, and is since I didn't actually a spoiler that isn't a spoiler. I don't know who murdered these people, and neither does Clay Blackburn. Autofiction, and. Which means I can read some of these passages at the end, because 25 years and 350 pages, I finally got to write these passages that were kind of poetic, and so I'm going to read a few of these. This comes at the end of a sort of a party where the chef who has invented the psychedelic ketchup that makes everyone see blue when they close their eyes, which is the life force, I quote Wilhelm Reich a lot. The last party is kind of a Day of the Locust thing where they take so much of this vanilla hots, and I'd like to write a cookbook, they're just wild. And in the middle of all, well, here, it's better to read than to explain, right? Show, don't tell. People picked up the dance vibe and twirled and stomped into the main dining room, holding as many toilets as they could handle. It was in little fake toilets that you would drink this stuff. Juggling them, throwing them in the air, and catching them in their mouths, playing catch, mixing the red ones, the yellow, the brown, the off-white with chunks. The morsels must have been massively dosed. We were ripped. The music changed. A literary reference, that old Badfinger song. If you want it, here it is. Will you walk away from a fool and his money? The Magic Christian. Tonight, our greed, our lusting for what had been advertised as a life force was pushing us into a pool of shit, piss, and blood, so to speak. Marvin leaned over. Marvin is the smart sidekick who is a Marxist. Marvin leaned over, put his arm around me, said, "It doesn't matter so much, Clay. Tomorrow we'll shake it off, live to fight another day. All is lost, but all is not lost." He picked up a red one and tossed it in his mouth. As he chewed, a dribble of blood, was it real blood, ran down his chin vampire style. But isn't this the death of communism? Humanity is the death of communism, but oddly enough, communism has a life after death. Figure that one out. Nah, I don't. Let's see. That actually does give away some of the plot, such as it is. And in the midst of it all, Dino Centro drops that he's leaving town, and this is like the sad parting. No matter what I told myself, I was deciding on my breakup song soon as I turned away. Last kisses are seldom remembered. You know, my pal Noah Ross edited this, and he looked at me and said, "Everybody remembers their last kiss." I said, "No, I don't remember." So it brought on a literary discussion. Last kisses are seldom remembered. Why is that? I did make a note of this one, and of his last look, getting into the back seat, white shirt as bright as water glistens from the eye, as the poet said, but just a little rumpled, no luggage. There are people who always look like they're stepping into a limo, even if it's a Lyft Camry, silver blue with plastic interior. I entered the bookstore and walked through to the grand hall of the people. In the aftermath of that last food fight, I had expected a Day of the Locust scene, given the drug intake. It was the opposite, perhaps also because of the drug intake. How does a heavy dose of the life force manifest itself? And this is the chef talking. That was all of it. I'm not making any more. Tonight was a form of redemption for me. I lost boatloads of money. I gave them a nearly lethal dose. I've directed my people to stop making the hots. It couldn't stay legal, too dangerous. I feel the heat closing in, feel them out there making their moves, setting up their devil dog stool pigeons. Tonight was our vision of the acid test. People will leave here changed forever. He did a little pirouette, nearly lost his Dr. Seuss-sized toque, blue or white gone blue because. As he went through the door, the hat did fall off, to be picked up and passed around, thrown in the air, caught and dropped, all with a sense of happy play. No riots tonight. That was the last time I saw Astor. And I think I can read the sort of kicker last thing without ruining the whole thing for you. Or maybe this is all you need. They put some money into this, so if we sell enough, PM Press might publish another book. But it's not charity. You don't need to. Time passes quickly, slowly, then quickly again. Hurry up and wait. In the weeks following Dino's escape, if that's what it was, I spent some serious time with Gertrude Stein, The Making of Americans, a big long story, though a little tedious. I think that was her point. Everybody's life is everybody's story. That's tedious. I also thought a lot about Marvin's forever war against the rock wall of capitalism. The arc is long, like they say, but is squiggly, and you just never know where it's going, and there are no guarantees. Reader, I'm seeing things from a different part of the arc now, still high and dizzying, but tragically on the descent. Indulge me, allow me to direct you. If you have a little Marvin in you, keep hurting them for the sheer fuck of it. Take advantage of the highs by pissing on them, you know who they are, from a higher place. Find your personal Bugatti and drive. And sometimes, as I broke from Stein's words for a bit, to get some air and avoid the seasickness of language, I thought of Dino Centro living in a refined and sophisticated life in Gibraltar. He goes to Gibraltar. That's not autofiction. I don't even know what it looks like. Or so I assumed. Pissing on them, the squares and the marks from a higher place. I thought of the elegant grifters and how they move through the world. I thought of Dino Centro. And that's the prose portion of the evening. And it's called The Giveaway. Thanks. And the first couple of readings I did, I only did the giveaway because I didn't read poetry, and this being a poetry venue, I'm going to get to read tons of poetry. Sorry. The book, this is a Spuyten Duyvil book. They do really nice work. I think one of Patrick's books, two books. Two books by Patrick.
I rode through on the Amtrak just this week.
Oh, really?
Spuyten Duyvil. Yeah.
Oh, really? Yeah. Huh. And it's called Poison Begets Poison, and there's a beautiful cover drawing by Liz Ledger. Thank you. And the first part is I wanted to write about something, and you know, subject matter, and we're drowning in subject matter now, which means writing about politics, which is like the death to poetry when you try to do that. And so I decided to do fake translations and sort of try to channel Bertolt Brecht, who did a pretty good job with it. And so these are kind of fake Brecht poems, and some lines are straight out of Brecht, stolen from the older translation. There's a newer translation that's really good, but I was working with the older one. And I don't have a word of German, except, you know, Heil. And we'll have to learn that soon. So I'm going to read a few of those first. City dwellers after Brecht, cover your tracks. Tearful goodbye, airline parking lot. Don't come back, cover your tracks. If you bump into another from times past, pass like a stranger without a look. Pull down the hat, don't show your face, whatever you do. Do nothing twice, don't repeat. Otherwise your story won't seem plausible or fresh. Your only project is to submerge. Don't stop along the way. There are no signs worth heeding. Here it comes. Reality will come to you in dry and factual terms, undeniable and beyond communication. It won't recognize you or your weary complications. Chronos. The cities may change, but you may not. The rubble's kept low to prop up the stones. We may kill you, though we don't need to. Might be best to stay inside. You may change, but the cities may not. The stones don't flatten to rubble, at least. Not that you'll notice we didn't care enough to kill you. The times just moved along. Something's wrong. You fear that you can no longer make a living. Nobody needs the stuff you make, the person you are. You have been moved out. Someone else lives here. Strange how the world breathes on its own, somewhat dangerous below, but not by design. You're pursued, but don't respect your pursuers. It is and isn't the natural order of things. Maybe you fall into a river. Some reach the banks. Others drift to the sea. You struggle. The rivers are indifferent. This particular situation doesn't involve trust or faith or reason. This is kind of depressing, sorry. Fifth wheel. Well, Brecht isn't full of laughs. Towers of tires by the side of the highway. Sometimes inexplicably, one will catch fire. Ignoring the others, it's another toxic day. We enter your head when it starts to ache. You rub your temples, realize you are a fifth wheel. We're in your head and on your shoulders, from here to the horizon as you search for a word that allows you an exit. Without making too much of a scene, finally plainly say, please, I want out. We answer you, we'll stay until we say so. We answer plainly, too, don't think we're villains. Just keeping you informed. Transparency is our stock in trade. Don't admit the world's gone toxic. Don't go for your gun. Have a glass of water. The world isn't really that bad. We just have no space for you. Let's see. How it flies and how it rolls. When years ago I attempted a minor insurrection and tried to study labor's relation to profit, I suddenly understood how everything is managed and manipulated. And at the same time, I did not understand, so turned away, semi-ignorant, but somehow knowing that I could get myself into some deeper shit. When it occurred that achievement, invention, discovery could be used for greater misery, rage and lamentation followed, but I turned away. The thought that what they did and how was intolerable shocked me, but mostly frightened me. That those that live by doing damage to others, a situation upheld only by crimes committed, so effortlessly would just as easily damage me. We built on rock, we built on sand. The rock caved in, the sand muddied. The generals go straight from HQ to lunatic asylums. The possessions of the haves grow. Protest, you will be beaten. Don't protest, you will be beaten too. Fog covers the bridge's neatly discrete parts. Headlights come on like little medals. Headlights come on like little medals across the pockets of lapels. Scrim covered, they nearly shine on the military hand-me-down cop cars. The discreet charm. They ate all the birds in the trees. We ate all the birds in the trees. Now cursing fate when lunch is late. I have about 3 more, and then I'll read something lighter. Homily. From the new transmitters come the same old idiocies. Same meat on old forks finds new appetites. Yet on the outskirts, the trees spread fine branches, protecting the abuser and the hero, all the same. Beatings begin and beatings end. Homily 2. The guests have full plates, yet they handed you an empty plate and cup. You ask, when will I be served? They say later. Outside, the useless moon half hides behind glass buildings. You notice and appreciate as best you can. You see the gods of revolt, knee-deep in a bog, wading toward you, but not very fast. We'll end the fake Brecht portion with this. One last grievance. A third of the city sleeps through graveyard shift. Another slow night, but the screams of the marked can be heard, much louder to those without windows or doors. What happens to the holes when the cheese is gone, when the choice is death or an inadequate life, when the things that you said tore the heart, when you understand everything and run out of stories? Say it like it should be. Say it like it should be said. Every heart torn to shreds. That's that. I got to be a negotiator, actually the lead negotiator on a couple of contracts. I just fell into it. I have no experience with labor law, so I had to study really fast. I was doing it with my friend Noah Ross, a fellow poet, and we were like noticing the poetic lines that do pop out of labor contracts. If you're open to it and crazy enough, and so these poems come out of that. They're either I jotted them down when we were trying to negotiate, or they were actually in the contract, and we tried to put some nice wording in the contract that would make it, like these are bookstore contracts. They should be literary. That's really tough to do. CBA. Believe in creating and sustaining an equitable workplace unless the committee's vote is less than unanimous. Based on an agreed upon process, all workers are members and required to use personal vehicles as parties agree. Company must periodically supply all as needed until the differences are washed away and the heartbreak is admitted to be contained in heaven's water, beyond argument, flowing away from mountains as defined here. Yeah, we couldn't get that in. As defined here, not otherwise defined, as a grievance, or as the naked eye, or as a pacing above on deck until excused to move away, or that in the event of resignation may swim in water the color green as in any disagreement or dispute, must hard cut through fog's density, or otherwise bear the weight of the cost of arbitration without sharing direct control of the operation. The direct control of the operation as equal and fair, to name it directly separate from musky chromosomes, separate from the eerie sea for purposes of bereavement, or otherwise capped form accrual, neither approved nor rejected nor recognized by designated directors, managers, supervisors, rehires, or consultants, period. Periods of several hours in succession, overtime notwithstanding, the parties agree to a complete nothing. Therefore, warfare. The directors shall have their prior articles herein recballed until at night one drop of rain closes it all, and parties agree they want this night to end. At completion of malicious intent, all will have the right to be free. As defined, delineated, in good faith attempted, to swim in green rivulets in the night when the shifts have closed, theirs in the spirit of full disclosure glide noiselessly among bigger ships with express right to sink all ships too large, until the skies leak bands of light and smokes soar into themselves, creating new poisons that obliterate the poisons of the past. Well, I guess that's it. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. There will be no questions and no answers. But you can hang out as long as you like. Thank you, Owen. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, audience. There will be light.
How you doing? Good.
You want to leave your jacket over here, Penny?
Yeah.
So I mentioned that Suzanne Stein, Rockwell, is your
Hiya.
I was just with him.